In all the sort of long-legged movements they had me doing, it's nice to see the legs come through.
TAURIEL also had to be distinct from the hunter elves so that when you saw a whole bunch of them together and she was standing amongst them, you could pick her out because she's a main character. And one way that we kind of jumped on picking her out from the others was with her hair.
And she had hair sort of down past her calves. I sometimes think Peter does these things to see if I can do it or it can be done. There's always this challenge going on. So I looked at it and I went, right, okay, I can work out how this has got to be done, so we had to make a wig with very long hair, and then we had to extend it.
Yes, there's girls in Russia that grow their hair long, and they sell it. It's their job. They just sit at home having to sort of sit there and wait for their hair to grow. And they sort of read books and magazines and eat and drink, and they sort of wait till their hair gets long. Yes, it's a profession.
To get her hair as long as we wanted it, we can't get hair that long. So what we've done is we've cheated by this is the wig, and then underneath is another piece here, which extends the length, and then when it's put on the head, the whole lot is combed together so as to form this one big, long tail.
I love my hair. I love TAURIEL's wig. I love the color. I'm so excited. I've always wanted to play a redhead.
The color originally was, I would call it a chestnut brown. And in the process of us doing our show and tells, it got redder and redder and redder.
I said I'd love to see it a little bit more poppy red.
Yeah, sure. I mean, you could put a little bit more into it. I mean, I can certainly go with that too, because it's not quite as red as the artwork.
At one point, Peter said, no, just more red. I went, really? Okay. I went, okay, fine.
I mean, that colour there, if you can see it, that colour's not bad. It's not quite the same. I could do a bit more in the front, maybe.
And in the end, this wig and the hairpiece had 9 separate lots of tinfoil highlights.
You have dyes called violet, tomato, and grass.
Yeah, we do indeed. We did it with thousands of little fine highlights and all different colours, so it looks like a natural colour, so it doesn't look like a dyed colour. And so that's how we ended up with this bright red.
I'm a lucky elf. A lucky little elf. Right, Hill? A lucky little elf. I have the biggest ears out of all the elves in all the movies ever.
Just in case you haven't noticed.
They were lovely because they wrapped right against her head. The one thing I don't think you want is them is sticking out.
There's a rare opportunity occasionally that comes along when there's actually been some filming done and you can look at it and go, okay, we're going to add something here. And we had that chance with TAURIEL and Legolas to offer a second iteration on her costume.
When we first saw them in the realm of Mirkwood, there's a need for them to be in a very much a stealth-like sort of camouflage situation. But now it's actually about going out and leaving the realm.
It was really Leslie Burks-Harding that came through and found the essential ingredients and found the lines that we needed for it. And it was she that really designed that costume.
What they needed was a travelling costume, something that could be elegant, simple, fluid. She needs to be able to move in it really well.
The new elements that ended up being introduced, I think in many ways recalled Arwen's riding costume.
It was a beautiful garment. It had everything about it that they wanted this to be, but obviously it needed to be a bit different. This is so much more beautiful.
Yes.
When I put it on, I felt like now I'm TAURIEL. Dirahi wifing. Dirahi.
Elvish, rock on.
The use of Elvish was important because it lends an authenticity to the worlds that you're trying to bring to life.
Elvish is an extensive language system. It's got grammar and syntax. There's a very clear pronunciation guide that Tolkien himself gave us.
Okay, Evie, here we go. Ready and action.
Within the Tolkien world, we have 2 different types of Elvish. Sindarin, that is their common speech, so it is the everyday communication.
In Gun and Leor.
And then there's Quenya, which is ancient Elvish. It predated Sindarin. It has a timeless formal quality to the language itself, kind of like Latin in a way. And it's used, particularly in these movies, for spells, for incantations.
Now, I'll never forget that Elvish incantation because, I mean, I just said it over and over and over and over and over again. Men no nin na hon, yelia dan nanin, hon leethon gurth. Yelia dan nanin, hon leethon gurth. And I'm sure every dwarf in the room could recite that one for you too, because they had to hear it like 100 times at least. Men no nin na non, yelia dan nanin. Han leethon gurth, men no hin na non, yelia dan nanin, hon. Oh, I like
Very good.
How do you draw them?
From the back, it's like it's invisible.
We spent quite a lot of time thinking about how weapons can be used. We all sort of looked at what had been done in the original films. We wanted to come up with Elvish weapons that felt in the same kind of family as what had been done in Lord of the Rings. The idea with these weapons is that they can actually sit across the back of the arm, which enables you to have a very different fighting action.
Her two daggers resembled kukri knives. So Nepaline kukri knives, they actually bend, they sort of concave and they don't go straight. We wanted to incorporate it, but make it her own and just how she would post it up and have one pointing down one arm and having one going out the other side.
I love my daggers, but if I'm honest, I have dagger envy.
Legolas and Tauriel. Who has the better weapons? Of course, Legolas does. That's a ridiculous question.
Oh, he's got his knives out again, got it.
He's got his knives out.
I've got my old LOTR faithful on my back, which could not be improved upon, is what we decided. You cannot improve upon perfection.
If I had to choose, I would take Legolas's daggers over Tauriel's daggers. But I do like the look of mine. I think they're pretty.
So what they've done for Tauriel is good, actually. Pretty good, but not quite as good.
Keep it as a promise.
What we had with Tauriel was a slightly different elf. She has a great curiosity of other races, of the world outside.
She literally hasn't been anywhere. I mean, Tauriel's probably one of the younger elves, 1,000 years old, maybe 1,347 years old, I don't know. But, you know, she isn't as old as Legolas or Thandril.
And she engages and ultimately falls in love with a dwarf of all people. It was a nod, in a way, towards the love that Gimli felt for Galadriel. It was just one of those wonderfully beautiful moments that Professor Tolkien wrote so effortlessly.
And what gift would a dwarf ask of the elves?
Nothing.
The other members of the company get their various valuable gifts from Galadriel.
Thank you, my lady.
But Gimli says he'd just like a strand of hair, which is really, as I say, a kind of romantic thing to do. And you would expect him to ask for something tangible, but he asks for something precious instead.
It does go back to chivalric romance, like the Arthurian stories. It's a personal connection that she acknowledges he is her knight and that he will go and do deeds in her name. And he does.
I asked her for one hair from her golden head. She gave me 3.
And so we created a love story between Kili and Tauriel. But we had an instinct that you could never push the story too far.
Aye, aye! You got the timing wrong. Bugger!
In that initial spider fighting scene, some of us felt that it should be totally icy, a dwarf meeting an elf, and business as usual. And then there were some of us who thought, no, there should be an instant, unexplainable chemistry.
I have heard many tales of the beauty of the elves.
And I have heard many tales of your kind.
What do they say?
They say never trust a dwarf. I was very relieved that scene got cut from the film because I don't feel that we ever, on the day, came to a good resolution. But by the time we get to the cell scene, we were all very much in agreement that this is a great moment for romance to start to take seat. The stone in your hand, what is it?
My mother gave it to me so I'd remember my promise. That I would come back to her.
In terms of when and how and where those two characters might kiss, might actually have that moment, I think I'd put it on the lakeshore. We trusted the actors to know exactly where it should go.
And then what do we think about this kiss moment?
Have we earned a kiss? I don't know if we've earned a kiss.
I think I earned it.
I said, Aiden, no offense to you, I'm not trying to get out of kissing you, but it just felt to me like it was premature.
I think Evangeline knew exactly when it should happen. And it's when she understood that what she felt had been real. And now she had to let it go.
This is gonna ruin the most romantic scene in the movie. But I have been waiting for 3 years to tell this story, and I'm gonna tell it. To understand the sort of physical dynamics of that scene, I'm supposed to delicately sort of lean over him and kiss him. Well, to reach his face over his barrel chest, I'm almost hanging upside down. I'm trying to reach his lips, but I'm crying. And one take, I came up from giving him his kiss, and there was this string of my snot running from his lips to my nose.
Terrific, we've got great stuff. Great stuff. Oh, hang on there.
Finally, they called cut, and Peter said, don't worry, we'll get it in post. So embarrassing.
Even the latest version of Photoshop, you can't quite replace a good old-fashioned pencil. A fine selection of dwarves and elves. Get in closer if you want.
Fran and Pete had spoken about reprising the little vignettes on the end titles, as we did at the end of Return of the King. And I said, it's brilliant. And so, of course, it had to be Alan Lee and John Howe, because they can draw those characters better than anyone.
We have 32 altogether. Given the dearth of feminine characters, there were only 2. So we split them up by nationality.
John did my portrait because he was Canadian and I'm Canadian. Seeing Tauriel's portrait at the end, it was a total surprise, and I was really touched by it. It meant a lot to me because my character wasn't in the book and was very controversial. It sort of felt like an affirmation. I guess the character, Tauriel, had sort of earned her place in this world.